How's it going, guys? Cdew here, and once again I am coming to you with another video with Skillcapped. And this week Skillcapped has given me a list of topics that they want me to rate for what I think is overrated, underrated, and just right. So when you guys hear these topics, I would love to know what you guys think. If some of the things that we're talking about are overrated, underrated, or just right. If you guys think I'm wrong, or if there's some other topics that you guys have about WoW Arena that you want to kind of get out there and you want to leave in the comments that you think may be overrated, underrated, or just right. So the first topic here is FODM re-rolling. My thoughts on FODM re-rolling is I think that a lot of people are probably going to say that FODM re-rolling is overrated. And I wholeheartedly disagree. I think FODM re-rolling is just right. I think it's just right. I don't think people underrate it. I think it happens probably a fair amount, but I think FODM re-rolling is something where it just makes the game more fun. I think it allows you to have more knowledge of other classes, so if you do want to play your original class, you understand how to beat the overpowered classes since you're now playing them. You have a better idea of how they're going to work, what is good into them, what's difficult for them. And I think playing alts is something that is very natural in WoW. Coming all the way from like the OG Classic expansions, I remember leveling up characters. I wouldn't even be level 60, and I'd want to try out new classes. I'd want to try the Hunters, the Rogues, things like that. My original class was a Warrior. So I think FODM re-rolling is something that keeps the game fresh. I think it allows you to kind of see things from a different perspective, and it also makes you not feel as bad, I guess, when you're playing something that is incredibly underpowered. It doesn't feel very rewarding to play, but you could always jump back to that when it does feel good, and it just kind of like allows you to expand your horizon a little bit. Trying different classes and roles, I definitely don't think this is overrated. I would say it's probably underrated. I think there's probably a fair amount of people out there that are kind of like stuck in their bubble a little bit. They don't really want to try different classes and different roles. And this is a little different than just FODM re-rolling. This FODM re-rolling is when you're just going straight to the top. You're going for those tier lists. You're asking the streamers what the meta classes are. Just trying different classes and roles in general, I think gives you a better perspective, especially, swapping from healer to DPS, DPS to healer. Personally, I think healing is the more difficult role, and I feel like when DPS swap to healers, they get a better perspective of how difficult it can be for healers sometimes based off positioning when people are, boxing you out, or your DPS are line of sighting you, or not using cooldowns or interrupts. It allows you to kind of, as a DPS, have more respect for healers, but at the same time, I think as a DPS, when you go from a healer to be a DPS, you realize how important some things are that healers need to do. When I go from healing to DPS, sometimes I often find myself like, wow, why are we dying here? Like, if communication was a little better, maybe I would feel more comfortable, and it allows me to actually be a better healer. So having that different point of view is pretty important. So I think that's probably pretty underrated. Definitely something I would recommend. Having multiple of the same class. Now, I think that this is probably one of the most underrated things you can do in WoW. And I think this is something that I personally don't do, but I want to absolutely recommend this to anybody who doesn't do it. I think that like queue anxiety is one of the biggest things I see. People come into my chat and they're like, "Cdew, man, I got 2400, or I'm 2350, I want to push 2400. I'm a little worried about it, I don't want to lose rating." Having multiple of the same class allows you to completely rid the queue anxiety. This is a old technique that myself and my teammates used to do in the tournament realms, and some of the top players probably still do to this day. But if you have one character and you're pushing 1800, you get that character to 1800, you achieved your goal. Do you want to push it higher? Well, if you queue your lower character, you try to pass the 1800 mark, and once it gets higher, now you can safely queue this character without risking its rating. You kind of are able to bounce off of each other and completely get rid of the queue anxiety of having to, drop down in rating. And it also allows you to be a little bit more flexible with the compositions that you queue. You can queue some off-meta stuff. You don't need to worry about your win-loss. You don't need to worry about, finding people who are the exact same rating as you in the LFG or things like that. So I think that it's very, very underrated to have multiple of the same class, and definitely something that I think a lot of players should do. So having good keybinds, this is something that is probably very underrated. I would say a lot of people probably do this, try to have good keybinds, but you definitely want your quick to react keybinds like trinkets, defensive cooldowns, offensive cooldowns, interrupts. I'm talking to you DPS players, to be on a very easy keybind to press. That way you can use it very frequently while not feeling like you have to adjust your finger too much. A lot of people always ask me like, hey, what are your keybinds for targeting friendlies and targeting enemies? And you definitely want to be able to cycle through those really, really well. And to this day, I still adjust my keybinds, and I'm talking about keybinds that I've had for a very long time. In this expansion specifically, I changed my keybind on Unleash Life, which came back all the way from Cataclysm from Shift 1 to 4. 4 is just a lot easier to press, and I found like I was adjusting my keybind to Shift 1, adjusting my hand from Shift 1, and it kind of felt unnatural. But not only that, having keybinds that you can kind of press like a good keybind, if there's like off global abilities that you need to press, that you can have, you know, your fingers in a position where you could do multiple. For example, on like Shaman, if I wanted to do like Ascendance and NS, I think they used to be off global, I'm actually able to press Shift 4 and Shift 2 at the same time. So you could see like that's a quote unquote good keybind. But I also have some pretty awkward keybinds, like my Healing Tide is Control B, which obviously, you know, then it kind of messes with me a little bit. So having like good keybinds is definitely something that's pretty underrated. Having awkward keybinds, it's going to make your class feel not as smooth. So those keybinds that you press very frequently, you definitely want kind of on the no modifier keybind, no controls, no alts, no shifts, and then you try to put the ones that you press less frequently on the more awkward keybinds. And I think kind of doing like an overhaul of your keybinds can definitely allow you to kind of bump your rating up a little bit. And to note on that, having universal keybinds, we were talking about, you know, FOD and re-rolling, trying different classes, different roles, things like that. Having universal keybinds is going to make it very easy to jump between class to class. You know, you have your defensive cooldowns on the same button, or your interrupts on the same buttons, your trinkets, things like that, all on the same buttons. It's gonna feel pretty easy to jump from class to class. You know, when I play Resto Druid recently, they recently got Skull Bash in this patch. I immediately changed my keybinds. Bear Form was my Wind Shear keybind. I immediately switched that. Bear Form is my old Bear Form bind, is now my Wind Shear bind. I'm already using Arena Shear 1, 2, or Skull Bash 1, 2, 3 on my Druid. Just because having those universal keybinds allows you to move between classes very smoothly, and it allows that muscle memory to kind of build up. Like, oh, I'm dying, I'm on a new class, but my Shift F is my evasion, and now I'm on a Rep Pally, it's my Shield of Vengeance, things like that. So definitely want to try to keep some of those universal keybinds. That way it's easier. VOD reviewing. This is probably also a very underrated technique to allow players to get better. I would say a lot of people probably do not use this, especially, you know, if you're someone who doesn't stream. But if you just record your games, it's super easy to do. OBS, you just set it to, you know, your videos in your computer. You don't need like a good computer or anything. Specifically, if you feel like you don't stream because it's too taxing on your PC, or you don't have good enough internet, this isn't going to be a problem for you. As a professional player, VOD reviewing is still like one of the #1 ways I can learn. It allows you to be very nitpicky, like, oh man, why did we die here? Oh my goodness, I got CC'd, I had an interrupt available, or, you know, why is my positioning, like, why am I just kind of like migrating to the middle of the map? Because I don't know why sometimes I just do that. I want to kind of like get in the mix a little bit. You know, I end up pushing off a pillar or getting crowd controlled. Or you could just kind of see like what teams did to like set up kills on you. Like, oh, they pushed in at this time. Well, why did we lose here? We were trying to be aggressive. We had no cooldowns available. VOD reviewing is one of the #1 ways to improve your gameplay overall. It's super underrated. I don't think anyone out of like top, you know, couple percentage probably do it, but it's something that you should probably do at every single bracket because it'll absolutely help you to improve. Even if you're not the best, it is so easy to review your own gameplay. I could do it to myself, and you just feel like a pro when you're watching it. Like, oh, why am like I could watch my own play and be like, why am I not doing this here? It's like super obvious, and I feel like viewers can kind of like critique me all the time, and I'm like, why are you guys critiquing me? But then when I am the viewer, I'm like, oh yeah, it does look really obvious here. So VOD reviewing is super important. Having a good UI / add-ons. I would say that this is just right. You know, I don't think people would overrate this. I don't think people would underrate this. I think that this is probably just right. It's just so important to have a good UI and good add-ons. I think the biggest problem with this is that it's such a high barrier to entry, because when people come into the game, they don't know what add-ons they should get. They don't know what UI they should get. If only there was some sort of website that had a fully customized UI already available for you. There is. The skill cap UI is incredible, guys. The add-ons are set to just have every single add-on you need already, and the premium version also allows you to advance that even further if there's more customization that you want, with the Gladiator Losa, the text-to-speech that I get a lot of questions about, the Omni CD, all those profiles, the nameplates. Very important to have a good UI, guys. A lot of these things just kind of need to be built into the game. There's not much customization available, but having a good UI as well as the correct add-ons, kind of, when you have the right stuff, it makes it feel like it's a part of the original game that should already be there, and it will just help you, you know, it'll help you tremendously to make sure you understand what cooldowns you have available, you know, what crowd controls on your enemies at the right time, tracking debuffs, tracking your teammates' cooldowns, tracking your enemies' interrupts. It's all stuff that is very important for PvP. But I don't think anyone would overrate this, and I don't think anyone would underrate this. Just a very high barrier of entry if you're not really sure what it is that you need or what it is that you want. The skill cap's got your back. Don't worry. Go ahead and click that link. And the last topic we're going to talk about is playing scripted. Now, as a old school player, it still kind of blows my mind. I went through Burning Crusade, I went through Wrath of the Lich King, I went through Cataclysm, and then we land in MOP, and the word go starts getting thrown around. Can we go? Can we do a go? I come from a time where you got to play very loose. There was no word go. You know, you just kind of did things, and the game has evolved a lot. Now, when you play Burning Crusade and you play Wrath and you play Cata, now people are doing goes. But that is very scripted gameplay, and I would say I'm gonna overrate playing scripted here. I'm gonna say that it is overrated. I think going in with a game plan is important, which would be kind of scripting. But I think that you need to use that very loosely. You need to use it almost as a guideline. And I think it's something that my team and I don't want to say we struggle with sometimes, but we kind of fall into that trap where we are playing too scripted. It's really easy. If you're just going after the same target over and over, or you're doing the same type of crowd control over and over, it starts to allow the enemy teams to adapt and try to understand what you're doing and be able to counter that. And when they're doing that, and when they're starting to adapt, if you don't also adapt, you're just going to end up losing the match, or you're going to fall behind. So I think playing scripted is overrated. I think it's important to have a game plan, but if you're always doing the 3, 2, 1, everybody pressure CC at the same time, we're going to go after the same target, it's not always going to work. Sometimes the people that you're trying to kill are going to start playing more defensively while their teammates play more aggressively. Those teammates that are playing more aggressively could overextend. You got to be willing and able to try to take advantage of some of those opportunities. I definitely fall, into the same trap to this day with my team. Like, losing, we'll try to train a mage a whole game. We'll attack into hots the whole game. We'll attack, someone who uses defensive cooldowns very early, and it ends up being a bait, because once they use those defensive cooldowns, they'll be like, oh, I have no defensive cooldowns available. I'm just going to play super defensive. And then everyone else on the enemy team tries to get aggressive to make up for that a little bit. And you have to be able to play loose. So I'm personally going to say playing scripted is overrated. Make a game plan, use it as a guideline, but always try to be opportunistic with everything that's around you. So I would love to hear what you guys think about these topics. I would also love to hear what topics there is that you guys, you know, wish I would have talked about, or maybe something that you want to talk about if you think something is overrated, underrated, or just right. And once again, thank you guys very much for watching. I'm very happy to be doing videos with Skillcapped. And if you guys also enjoy watching them, make sure you guys let me know in the comments. Thank you, and have a good day.